Hi, honey. Hi, Dan. Sorry, missed you. I'll turn the cell phone. Love you. Bye.
Phone messages from pro wrestler Chris Benoît to his wife and son in the days leading up to their murder-suicide. The messages from Benoit himself, family members and friends give new insight to what happened before and after the wrestling star killed his wife and young son and then himself in their Fayette County home last June. Channel 2's Tom Regan has been reviewing those phone messages, which until now have not been released to the public. He joins us from the newsroom with what he found. Tom?
You know, Javita, months ago we filed a Freedom of Information request for these phone messages. It's taken this long to get them, but we finally did. They convey the uncertainty and concern of friends and relatives and the voice of the wrestler himself.
Hi, honey. Hi, Dan. Sorry, missed you. I'll turn the cell phone. Love you. Bye.
The endearing message from a father to his wife and son. One of many telephone messages, some disturbing, that investigators found in Chris Benoit's Fayette County home following the murder-suicide last June.
Hey, Chris, it's Ann from the office. Just trying to get in touch with you. It is Sunday evening, I think about 7 o'clock, so we're hoping everything is okay. So if you can call me on my cell phone.
One message came from Benoit's 7-year-old son, Daniel, apparently directed to his father, but it's not clear when the message was left.
Hi, Pooh Bear. We'll be back soon, okay? We'll just be there, okay? Hey, Pooh Bear. Hey, Pooh Bear. Love you.
Since there was no suicide note, we may never know why the wrestling star murdered his family. It happened over a weekend last June when Benoit was supposed to be out of town for a wrestling match. On Sunday night, a concerned colleague calls.
Hey, Chris, it's Ann from the office. Just trying to reach out to you. Give us a call when you have a chance.
The next day, another worrisome call from a friend or relative.
Hi, Nancy. It's Marnie in Canada. Just phoning to see if everything's okay, because we've heard terrible reports on the radio, so just calling to confirm. So hopefully we can talk to you soon. Bye.
Well, Nancy Benoit's father also left a message after learning of the killings, pleading for any police officers in the house to call him. Her family intends to sue the WWE for responsibility in the wrestler's actions. Benoit's father claims his rampage was a result of brain damage in the ring. Live from the newsroom, Tom Regan, Channel 2 Action.
Welcome back to another episode of No Ordinary Investigator, where everything is suspect until it is not. We left off last episode looking into Sullivan, who is a dark individual to say the least. Today's episode, I want to start off by looking into CTE and the Concussion Legacy Foundation, or Sports Legacy Institute. The foundation runs solely off grants or donations. The research can't be done until the person is dead, and they donate their brain. So there's really no way to dispute or argue it. Dead man tell no tales, after all. It is also the perfect type of business for funneling money, embezzling, whatever you may call it. After all, Vince McMahon did take $10,000 from WWE and give it to the Trump Foundation, or Trump campaign, sorry. Meaning, Trump accepted proceeds of crime, as the money was taken illegally from WWE itself and not from Vince McMahon's personal funds or wallet. Proof of one of many shady dealings that go on in the WWE, in the shadows, or the dark side of Titan Tower. It's funny because while digging into this, doing my own research, it seems a lot of the signs they would consider to be symptoms of CTE are also symptoms of somebody who may have a negative attachment. Seeing as Chris started acting strange after he got the belt, in some people's eyes, the belt being an item I'm pretty sure was cursed by Sullivan. And Chris also claimed an unknown entity was out to get him. An entity being something you don't know, haven't been able to label yet. It can be something supernatural, it can be a corporation, a network, anything. It's an entity. And on top of that, Nancy was quite adamant about Sullivan plotting his revenge and saying on multiple occasions, he's going to get you, he's going to get you. Sullivan being known as a Satanist, having satanic network available to him through the other churches that would practice the same thing, through magic. through the spirits willing to help him on his path of darkness, so to speak, making it quite possible that somebody involved in satanic rituals or magic would not only curse an object, but attach negative attachments to someone, especially if they had something to blame it on. They can't blame it on roid rage, or steroid rage, whatever you would call it, as Vince McMahon stated, as there were no steroids in Chris Benoit's system at the time of death or during the autopsy. And all other medication prescribed was not only prescribed, it was in the therapeutic level, showing that there was in fact no addiction on his part and no methamphetamine was found in the system, as Chavo claimed weeks before his death he had started buying methamphetamine again. So here we're going to look into CTE. I'm going to take you through their website a bit, and then from there there's a video, and I will go on with my explanation of that afterwards.
Dear NFL, what you allowed to happen to Tua last night is unacceptable. He had a concussion on Sunday, and you let him take the field 4 days later, where he had another concussion that might be life-changing. I hate that I have to remind you of this, but these are human beings with futures that will someday be husbands and fathers. And we need to protect their brains the best we can while they're out there helping make you money. This is becoming extremely personal for me. Besides concussions ending my career and destroying my mental health 19 years ago, this week I had to go visit the widow of one of my closest friends to give her the results of his brain study. He used to be one of your former players too. He died in December and left 4 young kids behind. They're going to grow up without a father because of the policies that you have regarding repetitive hits to the head and concussions. And you need to do better so that there aren't more children growing up without fathers. And while we're at it, I also would like to request that you stop recruiting our children to tackle football. It is now proven beyond any doubt that repetitive head impacts, like we have in football, cause CTE. In fact, you have been saying that since 2016, and yet you are still recruiting our children as young as 5 to play a game that we know if they play too long will give them a degenerative brain disease called chronic traumatic encephalopathy that has destroyed our heroes like Junior Seau or Kenny Stabler or Dave Duerson or Demarius Thomas, or the kids you've never heard of that signed up to play football because they wanted to be like their heroes in the NFL. You need to do better, and we're going to be here to make sure you do it.
So these are my notes from his autopsy report. And I'm going to go through it slowly so that way you guys can read it. I won't bother reading it for you because people read at their own pace. But I will say, this part I find suspicious. How could he have pulled the weights as well as held the 100-pound weights in each hand? Releasing the weights would cause the cord to snap back and jerk his neck and body back, as well as making it impossible to bend over, reach down, and pick up the weights said to have been in his hand during the alleged suicide. When they found his body, he was slightly turned to the right, meaning he would have dropped the one weight. His knee was bent, making him tilt to the right-hand side, which means he was at one point standing up. There was a pinch mark or blood on his hand. That could have been from a pinch mark. Who knows? Trey Powell made the choice to, have the body removed without taking the evidence, without the blood samples. That eventually just disappeared. So there's another suspicious circumstance there. And I've had a lot of suicide in my family, unfortunately. And I can say without a doubt, none of them went through the efforts of protecting themselves during that point. Like they claim that Chris had manufactured or MacGyvered the machine in order to cause the most pain possible, then why would he put a cloth around his neck to protect his skin? Nobody in any situation that I know of when it comes to hanging themselves would be like, oh, well, I'm going to put this cloth around to protect my skin because I don't want to hurt myself. They don't care anymore. So again, another suspicious circumstance in his alleged suicide. The autopsy confirms strangulation, but not suicide. All in the therapeutic range. Elevated levels of testosterone in Chris Benoit's urine. Doesn't mean it was steroids. He was taking testosterone therapy, which would be normal in a situation like that if you were coming off a long period of using steroids and decided not to. Your body stops producing testosterone, so they have to find a way to provide your body with testosterone. But the funny thing is, the previous tox report does not mention testosterone at all. The toxicology report was done by somebody else, and then during the autopsy they did a second one that becomes contradicting. Again, suspicious. My theory is that CTE is actually a form of repetitive, not necessarily demonic possession, but repetitive negative attachments. See, it would still take a toll on your brain and would give off the same kind of symptoms. For example, we'll go down here. And let's see here. We've got fatigue and lack of energy, constantly feeling cold, powerful negative emotions, mental fogginess and lack of clarity, poor memory and concentration, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, mood swings, being avoided by others, antisocial. But as far as the antisocial one goes, that could also be a form of dissociated fugue, which basically when you go through a traumatic experience, your brain has part of a safety feature in your brain. It resets. It needs time to heal. So it shuts down, reboots, and that could be what Chris was going through. It wasn't the fact that he was antisocial. It was just a way of dealing with Eddie's death. But we'll keep going here. Intrusive and obsessive thoughts, problems with relationships, constant fighting with others, frequent abdominal pains or headaches, suicidal thoughts, hearing inner voices, seeing images that aren't there, insomnia, feeling suffocated or pressure on your chest when you're asleep. Funny thing is, this particular part here, feeling pressure on your chest when you sleep, could actually be something feeding off you while you're sleeping. Many folks will report waking up feeling paralyzed, suffocated, or like something is sitting on them. That is called sleep paralysis. Fears, phobias, obsessions, strange skin sensations such as vibrations on your body, addictions or abusive behavior, anorexia, bulimia, severe allergies, feeling of being watched, impulsive behavior and attraction to dangerous situations, sudden onset of aches and pains in the body, including chronic and constant pain with unknown origin, which could result to all the pain medication allegedly at the Benoit home. I think that goes back to the at-home pharmacy. See, there was a police officer who had called Benoit. Apparently his name had shown up in a pharmacy based out of New York. But all this medication that was found at the home, the dates, if you're an addict, per se, you're not going to let old pills sit around and go out and get new pills. You're going to use those old pills first. Otherwise, they're going to waste. So anyway, it makes it possible when you think about it from another perspective that WWE and the Sports Legacy Institute, or Concussion Institute, whatever you'd like to call them, work together to not only funnel money and commit fraud, but hide demonic possessions or find an excuse that can be used to line their pockets with more money. Look at the history of WWE and Kevin Sullivan. Throw in how shitty the investigation into the Benoit murders actually was. In fact, it should be reopened on top of that. Read my report, watch my videos, and say I'm wrong. We live in a world where the supernatural is real and not only growing bigger, it's become a way to get revenge, power, wealth, get away with murder. For me, it's been a way to help a lot of people, and a big part of what made me look into this case as my first case. The research does not give them any insight into the possible behavior issues that could have played a role in the incident. So what exactly are they learning from all this research, and why should they be funded? Should I then be paid from or take donations for my research? Maybe they should be handing over some of their money. So I'm going to end the video here because obviously I don't want them to be too long. I want you guys to keep coming back. The other ones have been pushing 40 minutes or so. But we're going to end it with two nice audio clips followed by another interesting fact developed in my own research. So we'll start here with Vicky Guerrero giving some nice words about Chris Benoit.
With the storyline you did with Chris Benoit and how much time has passed now, do you think we'll ever see him inducted in the Hall of Fame?
I don't think so, because he's not even existing, with the WWE, as far as documentaries or his story. It's a sad situation. I loved Chris Benoit a lot. His family was our family. And his wife, Nancy, we were close friends. And their son, Daniel. And, it's just we were all really close. And I wasn't there when it happened. I don't understand why it happened. But I still love him. He was, aside from all that, he loved us and he respected us.
I just feel like WWE is a place where there's often a lot of forgiveness. We've seen it with Shawn Michaels. We've seen it with Bret Hart. Obviously different situations, but perhaps if enough time passes, maybe it will heal some of these wounds.
I would like to see that. You know, aside from everything, Chris Benoit was a talented, wrestler, and he had his own legacy. And I think that it shouldn't be ignored, and it's sad how things turned out. But I would like to see him, inducted into the Hall of Fame.
So that was Vicky Guerrero. Now we're going to hear from David.
I want him in the Hall of Fame.
Do you think they'll ever put him in the Hall of Fame?
I think so.
Like soon? Like I feel like maybe 20 or 30 or 40 years from now.
I don't know. Working on it.
It might also, have something to do with what you end up doing in the ring.
Yeah. It might.
Because, maybe his legacy's been tarnished, but his legacy lives on through you, which is... Those are big shoes to fill.
Bro, they're huge.
That they are very big shoes to fill.
Dude,
So now, the interesting thing about that particular word, tarnished. This is a quote from Nostradamus. And the question reads, "From on high evil will fall on the great man. A dead innocent will be accused of the deed," which could be a reference to Lee Harvey Oswald, as they say, but nobody said it had to be a president. Nobody said, presidents are just because you're a president does not mean you're a great man. Look at Trump, for instance. Trump's a piece of shit. Trump was president. To make matters more confusing, Nostradamus also adds that the truth about the situation will remain in the mist. So apparently we will never know. But the interesting thing is, when you run it through a scrambler, remain in the mist, which would be like a decoder or anything, because we know that Nostradamus likes to speak in riddles, it comes up tarnishment. It also comes up as sin eater, which is a sacrifice for sin. His name was banned from WWE, therefore his name was tarnished. Just an interesting fact, I thought I'd leave that on, just from my own research. And that'll be the end of today's video. I hope you guys come back to watch the next one.